And we are ready to start the meeting of the Board of Directors of the Redevelopment Authority of Whiteland. And so we'll call this meeting to order. Our agenda says starts with the pledge, so we'll stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, next item of business, swearing in. We have the appointments for each of the three members, Kim Dunn, Lisa Brown, and should be Alan Whitaker. Check here, signed by the president of the council. Yes, Alan Whitaker. And I would ask that you raise your right hand and be sworn in. And you'll need to fill in your name at the appropriate time at the beginning here. I state your name.
I, Kim Dunn,
Do solemnly swear that I am 18 years of age or older.
do solemnly swear that I'm 18 years of age and older.
Reside in the town of Whiteland, Indiana.
Reside in the town of Whiteland, Indiana.
The Constitution of the United States of America.
Will support the Constitution of the United States of America.
And the Constitution of the state of Indiana.
And the Constitution of the state of Indiana.
And that I will faithfully.
And that I will faithfully.
And impartially. Discharge my duties.
Discharge my duties.
As a member of the town of Whiteland Redevelopment Authority.
As a member of the town of Whiteland Redevelopment
As a
Authority.
member of the town of Whiteland Redevelopment Administration
Authority. To the best of my ability.
To the best of my ability.
And according to the law.
And according to the law.
So help me God.
So help me God.
All right. I am going to ask that you take and sign your respective oath. Alan is going to be the last, I think. That to me, and I will notarize that. Here we go. On. Roll call. Want to give a roll call?
Yes. Lisa Brown.
Here.
Kim Dunn
Here.
and Alan. What?
here.
All right. That brings us to the election of officers. This is a three-member board and there are three officers. So each of you needs to take one of those positions. There are three positions, president, vice president, and secretary treasurer. So you amongst yourselves need to decide who is going to be what. You can fight over who's going to be the president and the rest can kind of fall after that. Or you can kind of have a discussion and someone can make a nomination of a slate or all of them at one time. And if someone seconds that, you can do a vote and you'll be done. So.
Yeah, can I have one thing? So I'm Jacob, I'm with Bose, I'm the monitoring. The one thing I would say is the president and the secretary / treasurer will have the most things. You don't have to do a bunch other than the bonds are being issued, and you won't need to sign anything other than when we're issuing bonds. But if two of you are more accessible than a third, it might make sense for those two that are more accessible to be the secretary, treasurer, and the president.
Right.
For what it's worth. Sure, thank you. Yep.
Doesn't matter to me.
Who's around Whiteland the most? Probably me. You guys work close to the town or
I
anything?
live in Oakville right here, attached to West Street, so I'm right here close to.
Do you work out of town or are you home most
I'm
of the
home
days?
all the time.
I work in Indianapolis.
Okay. Okay.
Mhm.
So
Probably you and I get the secretary.
do the secretary. I can do secretary. You do president. Lisa.
What's that? Okay.
That makes it easier on the signing and stuff. Is that okay with you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, somebody want to make a motion then? What I heard from the discussion was that Alan would be the president. I'm sorry, your name.
Kim.
Kim would be the secretary treasurer and Lisa would be the vice president. And if that is your consensus, if one of you wants to say so moved,
So moved.
and is there a second?
I second.
Okay, so I think you raised your hand first.
Second.
Lisa, right? Did I get that right? Okay. Lisa seconded. Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Both same sign, motion carries. All right. Alan, you have the chair now.
We'll start with the first meeting of Town of Whiteland Redevelopment Authority. And I would like to go ahead and turn it over to Carmen. And Carmen, if you'd like to present it as you'd like, or if you'd like to have Jacob go through.
I will turn it over to Jacob, but just for a point of reference, I do want to, first of all, thank you all for agreeing to be on the redevelopment authority. It's always great to have new faces and even bring back folks that have been involved in the past, but wanted to talk about the project real quick that we're planning to install here in Whiteland, or we would like to install. So you can see if any of you drive out by the interstate on Whiteland Road, over the past 6 or 7 years, the traffic has influxed greatly. Especially, you know, we always had the 3 truck stops since the 60s. We've had this truck stops, but since the industrial buildings have come along, we have a lot more semis, and then we have the employees that are going to these buildings as well. We always knew that there would have to be some road infrastructure happening. Some asked, why did we not make the developers do that before the buildings, or as the buildings were coming in? And we did do traffic studies, but the way that traffic studies work is they look at today's traffic and then they do project. And it's hard to say when we would have needed that road improvement. So those developers were not asked to make that commitment to putting in a roundabout. There is a particular building out there that, you know, when these buildings were built, they were built as speculative. That means they can't tell us how many employees they plan to have there, because they're basically shell buildings until the developer recruits a tenant to come in to lease and or purchase the building. We now have upwards on the south side of Whiteland Road in that industrial park of close to 3,000 employees that are coming in and out of that park on a daily basis. When they all have shifts, it causes all kinds of havoc there. So for the last 2 years, we've been trying to find our best way to fund this type of project. And what has been presented to us from our financial consultant is to do something called a lease rental bond. I will let Jacob speak to that because that's what he does. He's bond counsel to explain that. But basically what this is you see it's 3 legs. Eventually, we would like, as soon as this property owner to the north decides to work with us to where we can unlock that piece, we would like to see this road connect up. And then this is Bob Glidden Boulevard to then connect up to the Moore Logistics Park, where we've kind of stubbed out a road there. So it would make it a four-way roundabout. But this would help with truck traffic, at least getting in and out of this park. We also know NDOT has done a study at the I-65 at the exit 95 interchange. Now they have to go through a different funding process as far as how do they fund their state projects. And it's kind of all put into a pool, and who scores the highest. Even they have to fight for their own money and their own projects. They've identified a project that needs to happen. We have written letters of support to show that, yes, this would help us. Obviously, ideally what would happen when that project comes about is Warrior Trail between the 2 truck stops would become a right in, right out. So it would make those semis come to this roundabout to then turn around and go out to the interstate. And then it would alleviate that traffic signal altogether. Again, if you ever drive in that area around about 3-4 o'clock, it's a headache. So we're in the interim, you know, we knew that this project is needed. We are continuing to work with NDOT. We have to stop our right-of-way stops about here. It's like 1,000 feet from the interchange, so we cannot make any improvements in NDOT right-of-way. Even if we had well, I'm sure if we had all the money in the world, we could do that, but we don't. So, so this is, the project is for a roundabout. We would also be putting flock cameras, which are the, for police departments. They have cameras on there, they're license plate readers, that assist with, if there's folks, especially, there's a lot of transient traffic that are just coming into town to either go to the truck stops. Sometimes those aren't good people that come into town, and so those license plate readers would assist in any kind of police matters that they need to. In addition, there would be artwork in the middle. We have some conceptuals. It would be Bob Glidden focused, as the road is named after Bob Glidden. So we've been working with Bomar Industries. They did the one in Franklin, the tree. They've done a lot of the artwork. They've done all along 96th Street, where it's all the car dealerships there. They've done all of those pieces as well. So, and they're huge Bob Glidden fans, and they actually raced with Bob Glidden. So it's kind of cool to see that. So that's kind of an overview of the project and why we need it. There's other funding mechanisms we could have looked at to fund this project. Our redevelopment commission, you all hear the word abatement, probably read it in the newspaper. And we were talking earlier about how those, you know, how people misunderstand certain words and things like that. And everybody thinks abatements are bad. They're not, but you know, it's a perception. So we could have paid this with what we call TIF dollars, the tax increment financing dollars. But we have not bonded in our TIF area yet. So we want to try to prolong in our bonding, because once we bond it, you'll hear the term, it starts the clock. So then we have 25 years that we, right now we are capturing all of the incremental assessed value for our areas that are in a TIF district. So with that, the town is able to kind of collect the money, put it towards our economic development plan, of which include infrastructure like roads. But this lease rental bond offers us another opportunity. We have to get creative with state financing and how we pay for things and projects. This is about a $2.5 million project. Just, it's a little under, I overestimated there. But it's not something we feel comfortable starting the clock over. The town has a capital improvement list of over $100 million worth of projects that we would like to do. So we want to kind of try to find the different puzzle pieces that we can use, that the state has given us opportunities to utilize to pay for projects. So with that, I'll turn that over to Jacob and let him explain to you the lease rental bond and the documents.
So Jacob McClellan, I'm with Bose McKinney and Evans. We serve as the town's bond counsel. And what that means is when a city, county, or town wants to borrow, they have special processes they have to go through to borrow. They can't just go to the bank and get a loan. So we help them make sure that they've done all the necessary approvals and the documents conform to Indiana law. And then ultimately at the close, we issue an opinion, which investors and banks that will buy the bonds rely upon. So you guys are the redevelopment authority. So I don't know if you guys have done other things with the town or maybe with the school, but you guys are essentially, you're a body, corporate and politic entity of the town, but you're essentially like a building corporation. So like schools will have a building corporation that they will issue bonds through. In Indiana, if you're familiar, like with the downtown canal, in the 1800s, Indiana, the state issued a bunch of bonds and the state went bankrupt. And so in the Constitution, they put in debt limitations. So those debt limitations are pretty strict. And in the 1950s, and it's probably more than you guys want to know, but some schools brought test cases because they had a lot of facilities that they needed to finance and came up with using a building corporation and having a true lease to allow them to borrow. And That was in the 1950s, and after the 1950s, our state law kind of caught up with that, and it allows for these sorts of building corporations. So it's very common for cities, counties, towns to finance like a town hall or a jail or what have you with through a building corporation. So then statutorily and for purposes of the Indiana Constitution, it's not debt. So and stop me if any of this doesn't make sense, but the way that it works is there are two leases here for your consideration tonight. For the redevelopment authority, often in communities, the leased premises would be things like roads and like the roundabout. The town owns those, and the town will have a base lease with you all, and that's just kind of a ground lease or a lease of those streets and that project. And then you guys lease that to the redevelopment commission. The redevelopment commission makes payments to you all that line up with the payments on the bonds. You guys assign on paper those payments and they make payment on the bonds that way. And so the payments that the town's making through the redevelopment commission are lease payments. They don't count as debt payments. They don't count against the statutory debt limit or the constitutional debt limit. So that's the kind of the capacity that you guys are serving in. Stephen will probably have you guys meet maybe once a year for your kind of administrative meeting, but otherwise
Requirement typically in January. To meet and reorganize for the year. There are some other things that are in the statute that we'll have to make sure get I's dotted and T's crossed administratively. In general, that's all that you need.
so you're essentially a pass-through for the redevelopment commission for the town to issue bonds. So the bonds will be issued by the redevelopment authority, payable from redevelopment commission payments. And as Carmen mentioned, the redevelopment commission will say that they are going to pledge what's called special benefits tax, which is essentially a property tax to the payment of the lease rentals, or other available revenues of the town. They're not going to pledge TIF, but the town has other revenues that they could appropriate, and we know that they will. And so purchasers of those bonds get to look at the property tax as a payment source, which is a very strong payment source. And the town will use the other sources so that they don't have to do additional approvals that they would have to do if they really intended to use property tax to make the payment. And to the extent they use TIF, it doesn't start the TIF clock. So this was the most flexible kind of structure as we were talking through it with Stephen and Carmen. And so the resolution before you tonight, it authorizes those two leases that I mentioned, and then it also authorizes bond documents. So there will be and the resolution authorizes a trust, what's called a trust indenture. A trust indenture is kind of we'll have a trustee that will act kind of as PayPal. So you're not necessarily going directly to a bank to sell this bond. So a Regions Bank or a US Bank or somebody like that will, under a document, handle all the payments. So whoever buys the bond, those payments, the proceeds of the bonds for the town to spend on the project will come into the accounts under that agreement. And that'll allow for disbursement of those proceeds for the project. And then as the town makes payments, the payments will go to that trustee, and that trustee will divvy up the payments to bondholders, essentially. There's a disclosure agreement that it authorizes. So if these bonds are sold in the open market, and in all likelihood, I think they'll probably be placed with a bank. But if they're sold in the open market, there's some requirements that the town has on some of their other debt already. But it's, on an annual basis, they have to post their financials and some operating data. And it depends on ultimately the buyer of the bonds and what they would ask for. The resolution authorizes an offering document. So if this were to be underwritten, there'd be an offering document like it's called a preliminary official statement. It would look a lot like a prospectus that you might get if you were buying a mutual fund. In all likelihood, it'll probably be a bank, and that offering document will be a little bit more simplified because the bank will be more sophisticated, and Adam Stone is assisting as municipal advisor, and he'll know exactly kind of what they want to see. So it'll be a little bit simpler to be a little bit more efficient. It will authorize a bond purchase agreement, and so that is once we get through the process, all the authorizations and the marketing of the bonds, which Adam will help the town with, and we find a purchaser for the bonds, they will sign a purchase agreement, and that will outline the terms like, hey, here's the the rate, here's the term that, and here's the paybacks. And, you know, any other conditions that that purchaser has. Once that's signed, there's typically 2 to 3 weeks between that date when it's signed and when we close, and we'll have to get documents filled in and together for you. As far as timing, tonight is the second, it's the last kind of authorization after you all, assuming everything passes right now, the redevelopment commission will meet, and they have 2 resolutions that kind of do the same thing as your one resolution. They have a public hearing to take public comment. And then assuming everything gets signed, the leases get signed, we will put out a notice, and that starts a 30-day clock when folks could remonstrate against the lease. We wait for that 30 days to pass. And during that time, Adam will work with the town to market the bonds. And after that 30 days, he'll work to select a purchaser. And I think we looked at closing, we're probably looking at closing mid-November, I think, if I recall correctly.
Yep.
So I've spoken a lot. Is there any questions?
I'll just add a quick additional comment. This project and its financing has been presented to the town council at the last 2 meetings. So September, and also in August. And at the September meeting 2 days ago, they took official action to adopt ordinance first to establish this body officially. And then secondly, a resolution to approve essentially this financing process. So I wanted you to be aware that you're not in this alone. You've got the backing of the council and authorization of the council effectively as well.
That's absolutely a good point. Yeah, it's been, I think in July, it was initially kind of generally talked about with you all. And then, so it's been like every council meeting, and then Tuesday as well. So I guess, the other thing is, as far as timing, so tonight, assuming you guys, and the next thing to do would be to consider this resolution. You guys have signed your oaths. We would ask, once you've approved the resolution, that you sign the project lease and the base lease, and then we'll have you sign the BPA, and Steve can hold that, pending the pricing, and Carmen signing off and the clerk signing off on the pricing. That way, so when bonds price, they price that day, and whoever's purchasing them will want that signed that day. And so if we don't do that in advance, then we've got to track whoever down to sign. So it's just easier to not. Once the bonds price, we will put together final forms of some of the documents that are in your packet. All the final numbers will be filled in, and they'll be tabbed up. Stephen or Carmen, they'll arrange for you guys to sign. And then, like I said, there's usually 4 weeks for that, just in case anything comes up, track anything down. I'll also mention the bond documents themselves will refer to the fact that you guys are just a body of the town, and this is all strictly payable from proceeds of the town, no personal liability, nothing like that. Everybody's looking strictly to the town, strictly to the property tax and the other available revenues to the extent appropriate. So with that, anything else you think I missed?
One just very general comment. If I were in your shoes, I'd be thinking, man, this is a lot of paperwork and a lot of things to read, etc. Typically how this goes, however, is the professionals do all the reading of the actual documents and make sure that everything's in order. Your role is more essentially as a gatekeeper to on the big picture level, make sure that you approve this project, and it's our job to take care of all of the nuts and bolts and the technical aspects of it. And you can essentially rely upon us to do our job in making sure all those technicalities are covered. You have to sign a lot of paperwork, but essentially you're relying upon us to have put those in the proper order. So don't sweat it that it's going to take you a lot of time to read through all these documents and so forth. That's just you can do whatever you want, but typically that's how it goes.
Yeah, and I will tell you, like, these documents, these are the same documents generally that I know you guys would be shocked, but if we picked up another redevelopment authority deal from another city, county, or town in the state, whether it's our law firm, Stevens Law Firm, some other law firm working on it, they're going to be very similar. So, but we would definitely know if something was out of the ordinary or different. And to that end too, Section 2, that contains kind of the not to exceed parameters, just so so we can't just go and, get your approval and issue it's.
Yeah, you might actually hit the highlights at least of the resolution. General comments that questions it.
But there's, excuse me, there's no personal liability for us doing this. Okay.
If you look at the indenture, for example, toward the back that I can find the section, but it will say, hey, this is solely payable from, property tax and other revenues to the extent appropriated. And no liability for any officials of the town, any officials of the redevelopment authority, and that by acceptance of those bonds, the purchasers are agreeing to that. And it would be, we have never seen anybody, and I do work in a lot of different states. You would never go after, a town council or a redevelopment authority or redevelopment commission for payment. You are strictly in the market looking at, and they're going to look at they probably won't even look at the additional other revenues that will be appropriated and used. They'll just look at the property tax and say it's Whiteland, and they'll look at the last few years, and Adam will prepare all that, but nobody would go after an individual. And there's lots of statutes that prevent that as well.
Unless you want to buy a couple roads.
No,
Right.
that's okay.
So then was there anything else? Any other question?
Good question.
That is a good question. All right, so section 1, just to go through the resolution, that authorizes the form of these leases. These leases are substantially in final form. The base lease, which is the kind of the ground lease that gets the roads from the town to you all on paper, that one really won't change. If you notice, we included some roads in the town. We also included the project. The flexibility for the town, once the project's complete, the par amount or the amount of the bonds are going to be put into that project, probably plus some additional funds of the town, I'm guessing. And once that's complete, the town has the option to release some of those roads, because then in theory, that roundabout has that much money put into it, and so it can support those payments. The project lease is kind of what you call the financing lease. That is in pretty final form as well. That includes this reference here. There's a not to exceed of, I think, $400,000 per year. Once the bonds are priced, there'll be an addendum to that, and it will take down the payments to be in line with the bond payments. So there won't be just a kind of an open-ended lease. The payments under the addendum will be in line with the bond payments, usually plus maybe $1,500 a year, $2,500 a year to pay for the trustee and any other kind of incidental payments. Section 3 authorizes that indenture that I mentioned, which is really kind of the payment agreement. And actually, I think you guys had selected Old.
I don't remember who it was.
But yeah, I think it's Old Niche.
For the last
one. I think for this one, did you select?
Yeah, I thought we identified for this one too.
It could be, I think it was.
So they'll be the ones that'll handle it and hold the project funds and provide stuff. And then section 4 references that addendum. So after the pricing, there'll be an addendum that'll line up with that'll show the final bond payments and line up with bond payments.
Before we move on, I would just point out in section 2, that's where it sets the financial parameters. Maximum of $2.75 million, a maximum of 6% interest rate. And then it seems like there may have been one other parameter.
I think there's parameter, we had this really put in the parameter in the ordinance or the
and then the length of the term of the bonds, I think, was estimated or expected to be what, 10?
It's expected to be 10. We included a not to exceed 12.
Okay, there you go.
Section 5 includes authorization of the continuing disclosure agreement. So again, that's disclosure out to the market should the bonds be underwritten. And then it authorizes the form of the purchase agreement, or if Stone Municipal does a bid or what have you, it authorizes. Section 6 authorizes an official statement or a term sheet. And again, that's kind of the prospectus or a term sheet to say like, hey, here's the town's financials, here's the project, here's what we're paying it from, bank, what would you offer? And then section 7 is just kind of a catch-all for closing certificates or that's kind of related that might be required. Section 8 is a direction to authorize. Section 9 is a direction to, or an authorization to use facsimile signatures and to direct a trustee to authenticate and deliver the bonds. So the trustee will, in that indenture, there'll be a form of bond, and that bond isn't live until you guys sign it. It is a bond of the redevelopment authority, and then the trustee has to countersign it, and then it's secured under that indenture. And the indenture will is the kind of the security agreement too for the bondholders. So the payments under the financing lease, you guys under that indenture pledge those to the indenture for the benefit of bondholders. So that's really that's where the security goes, and that's what they look to get paid. So, and then let's see. The section 10 allows you to make changes to the forms that you guys have been provided in accordance with the resolution here. And then 11 is kind of a catch-all to allow you to rely on your advisors. So Adam is municipal advisor, bond counsel, Stevens counsel of the town to, finalize everything and consummate the project. And then section 12 is just reference, because this comes up from time to time. If somebody doesn't stay and they're going to be out, they're going to be in Florida and they can't sign, it says, hey, the vice president could sign in place of the president, that kind of thing. So with that, are there any other questions?
I got questions. On exhibit A, the description of real estate, it'll be in your first packet. It's the second to the last page of the resolution. And it's exhibit A, description of real estate project, and it's got the pricing on it.
Yep.
Carmen, are you with me too?
This is what Tyler, I forget who gave it to us. So there's more value than.
Okay, actually,
Oh, there it
it's
is.
the second
Yes.
lease. It's
Oh,
the
yes.
day of the second lease.
That has changed, right?
Exhibit A or exhibit B?
Exhibit A, description of real estate.
It's A1, but it's
Yes.
second lease,
Yeah.
not the first lease. Or
I don't know that I have the same document.
Here, I got an extra copy.
Oh, is it, you said lease agreement?
Yeah, it's under the,
Yes, so that's what I was just, that the other one was exhibit B. So we had to post, and that was a question I asked back to the engineer, like, this is obviously more than what our project is, and I have not, is it harmful to post more than what we?
No, it just justifies the lease payments.
Okay.
So I mean, you'd want them to be at least in line. And then I think, the thought would be that once the project's done, all those could be released and the project just is enough to justify the lease. I think what you would do is you'd probably leave it there under this lease unless you go to do another project.
Okay.
And then unless just periodically you want to release it, or once the project's done, we want to release it. Either way, like what I would normally do is just to not incur costs to record something else, I'd probably wait until there's another project.
right.
okay.
Yep. Any questions?
Was about it.
Clear as mud.
All right, and don't leave because there's probably things to sign. I'm sure you've got them set up. But the next thing to do then would be for you all, if you want to make a motion, somebody wants to make a motion to adopt the resolution.
I have a question for our lawyer.
Yes,
As the president, I'm unable to make motions, correct?
actually, the president can make motion.
In this,
Yes.
okay. Do we got any questions from the other council members on anything? Well, thank you for doing our work and making us look like we know what we're doing. And it's well needed. I think what DHL come in with 1,200 people or
Team employees,
and growing.
correct.
Okay. Yeah, I'll make a motion. Do we want to start with,
There's actually only one document that needs to be approved, and so it only takes one motion.
so I'd like to make a motion to approve resolution number 2025-1.
I'll second the motion.
Yes.
We have a first and a second. May we have roll call, please?
Lisa Brown,
Present.
Kim Dunn,
Present.
Alan Whitaker.
Yeah,
I vote yes or no.
yeah, we want to vote yes or no. It'd be,
Yes.
Yes, sorry. My legal name's Kimberly. I don't know if that is something should be changed or not.
However you want it.
Okay, it's fine with Kim. I just wanted you to know that. Basically.
Are you referring specifically to the agenda and how it's listed there, or in all the documents that
Well,
signed?
as presented, we will accept as presented. Is that?
I was just asking.
Oh, whatever you think,
Okay.
whatever. I don't care. I go by Kim,
Okay.
but my legal name's Kimberly, so however you think it should be done.
Gotcha.
And my legal name's Melissa, so it's not even.
I want to sound consistent.
You can get specific. Three times.
You even have any names pre-typed in here.
They're all
Only in
blank,
the oaths. Yeah.
Yeah,
just the.
so
The oaths.
yeah, we're good.
Right.
Okay,
And when you do sign, I would suggest that you sign your official name.
Okay.
Makes sense to me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for clarifying.
Yeah.
There was some I'm like, what I call you guys,
That's what everybody calls me.
So we did have the vote and all
Yes.
three, and so it was a 3-0, and so it's adopted.
Yeah.
Thank you.
There's nothing else for me.
No, thank you. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Anything else from our legal counsel?
Nothing more from me.
Nothing? As seeing that our business has been completed for today, I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Simple enough.
All right.
Okay.
Roll call.